Any week anyway, Mark. We'd be all right.
You'll be grand. So this week on the Any Given Run Day podcast, we finally have a guest. I don't even know how long it's been since we've had a guest, but after last week's episode talking about trails and stuff, one name came to mind when I thought about this, and on Instagram, his name is Marky.does.trails. So we've got UESCA running and triathlon qualified coach Marky on the line with us right now. Marky, how are you getting on?
How are you getting on, Sean? How's Eric? Yeah, doing well. Looking forward to this. I've been listening to you from the very start. I won't give out to you that I think you're San Fran.
Yeah, I'll wear the hoodie right now.
Yeah, I'm a Bears man. But looking forward to this because I think you've really gotten it out there with the running that it is for everybody, no matter how big or small you are out there. And as I said, just spreading the knowledge. That's what it's all about for us these days, and getting more people out there for a tip around. I'm
not going to lie, Marky. I feel like I've been talking a big game and the expert has come into the room and I'm actually just kind of sitting in silence for this one, I think. But I do a bit of spouting a trail run and the Marky's onto Instagram. But as you have heard over the last couple of weeks, we know nothing about it. So, Marky, you have a wealth of knowledge. And I'm sure... A wealth in comparison to us now, let's be honest. So, but it's nice to have you on. It's nice to actually start to talk about it with someone who's done a bit and seen a bit and probably made a hell of a lot more mistakes. As we always say, that it's all about making mistakes and you can't make them all yourself. So it's great to have someone on who we might be able to learn from and learn a thing or two.
No, absolutely. There's something going wrong if you're not making mistakes. And as I say, as long as you learn from them, you keep on tipping along. And geez, I have done that from a broken ankle up in Trebraden, actually doing a recce of the run the line route and everything like that. The getting lost on trails, the whole lot. I've learned from them all, even building up the train and the whole everything. I know a small bit.
Well, on that note, Sean, hit the intro music and let's crack into this week's episode.
Okay, straight into it. Marky, one thing we talked about that finished last week's podcast was getting into trails. Having a listen to that, was there anything that came out that stands out to you as like, actually, you should have hit on this more, you should have hit this more, or you go in a bit more on this kind of talk about the trails and stuff in terms of people listening to the podcast and trying to get into trail running as something different to doing the road racing?
Let's hope we don't encourage too many people up to the trails, because one of the best things is you're up there, you've half the time you have the mountain to yourselves. I suppose starting off, I'll talk about how I got into it. I've done the road running. With a bad knee injury doing rugby a couple of years ago, I was told I wouldn't run. And again, after it, when I says, here, feck that. I don't like being told what not to do. Started building back up, got a few marathons under my belt, got a bit bored. I says, you know what, I'll give the triathlon a shot. Did 2 Ironman triathlons, a couple of 70.3s, then adventure racing, which I love as well. And that, I suppose, that would have been the first indication of our introduction to trail running. And I says, I want to check this out. So there is, for the guys who are around Dublin, there is an amazing group. Mark and Lar are 2 of the main lads. There's a couple of others with Irish Mountain Cardio. And they would be around Hellfire, Tick Knock and that. And it was just great to get out on a run with a group of people. They know the trails. They are so well set up between signs and walkie-talkies and everything to keep everybody in touch. Nobody is left behind. So do not be afraid when you think, I might not be able to keep up or anything. It's for all speeds, the whole lot of it. So that was my first introduction. And as the more I ran the trails, I kind of got to know how then to plot routes myself. A few of us use Garmin's. I know I wouldn't be too familiar with this Sonatos or the Corex watches and stuff. But even with Strava, there's a few apps like Wikiloc, All Trails. You can get your GPXs. So you know exactly where you're going. It's like literally having Google Maps on be it on your phone or be it on your watch. And so it was an awful lot of that was kind of then more self-taught, and I kind of went further afield. You start off with a few small runs. IMRA are fantastic. The Irish Mountain Running Association, check them out, imra.ie. €10 is all it costs for the year to be a member. When you rock up to your first race, you get your number, you get your timing chip, which you keep for the year. And the majority of races are €7 to enter. You can't go wrong with that.
Jesus.
You know, when there's a couple of organizations, now don't get me wrong, with some of the big guys, like I think Sean, yourself, and myself would be at Run the Line.
Yeah.
That's totally different. That is a fundraiser for the mountain rescue guys. They do phenomenal work. Up there, we were actually only up there Wednesday week ago doing another benefit run for them, which was great crack altogether. But yeah, €7, you can't argue with that. And they'll do midweek leagues. They'll do there's even runs throughout the winter. So you know, it is they're another great organization. They even organize carpooling and all for some of the races. Now it did die off for COVID carpooling, but you know, you can share the lifts down to Wicklow. But yeah, no, sorry. Getting back to it, yeah, I'm lucky that I'm on the M50, so I can head off down to Hellfire. You know, you get used to Hellfire, you cross the road to Massey and Crua, you go further afield, you're over Trebraden up to Ferry Castle. There's, you know, they're all parts of the Dublin Mountain Way, which is ironically just a marathon distance, which is nice and handy if you want. It is a lovely.
Don't get any ideas, Mark. Don't get ideas.
Would you believe it? Just on a total or randomly, I did it last year as part of my training for Eco Trail, because you know the beauty about trail running is you just keep going somewhere new. Yeah. And so I plotted it out, and by God, you start so early in the morning. I started from the Tala end, and there was still ice on the roads and everything, you know, and headed on up. But this is one of the mistakes you can make with a GPX. If I take somebody else's GPX, he might not go to the exact finish line, or he might head off elsewhere. So when I got into Shankill, the route turned left at the bottom of the car park, and it's of one of the pubs there, and literally the finish point is on the other side of the car park. But I followed your man, and it turns the next thing I'm down at the train station. And I'm going out, what the hell am I doing down here? But that was him. He must have been getting the dart back into town, you know, and he stopped his watch at the dart station. And I stupidly just kept the head down and kept going. So I added an extra 2 or 3K onto my run when it should have only been the 42K. But
only a 42K through the mountains. Like you weren't tired at all, or jelly legged, or Jesus, Mark.
As long as I have the energy to lift the points later on, you know, I don't mind.
That's the main thing.
But, now we're talking.
No, it's all about the balance. But yeah, no, guys, the trail running is savage. I have to say, now I know I'm massively biased, but there is just the community around it is absolutely amazing. Even as I was starting, I can think back to doing. As I said, I'm not too sure about the carpooling, but you know, like you log in, you sign up to a race. You can add your details at the bottom to say I'm leaving. Just say for argument's sake, Lucan. And I'm going to this race. I'm passing through here. Does anybody want to be picked up along the way? And I think we went up to the Merry Ploughboy. They'd arranged soup and sandwiches afterwards, which was all included. Now, they don't do that, obviously, for every race.
Yeah.
But I rocked in there totally on my own. And next thing, you're chatting away with 5 or 6 other people. You know, it's an amazing, supportive community. You know, it is... I absolutely love it. And then there's the challenges are out there. There's a lot of people heading off down to Kerry. I think is it this weekend? Kerry,
the Ultra Way, isn't it? Yeah,
Kerry Way Ultra, 200 kilometers. Now, seriously, that is a challenge. Now there is. Now I would disagree with the race organizers for they have one which is 56. It was 56, I think. They might have brought it up to 60, and they call it Kerry Way Light. And I'm there going, there's nothing light about doing 60K over the Kerry Way Ultra. You know, but no, fair juice to anybody going out doing that. And I think they've a one in the middle then, which might be about 120, 130K, which again is savage because you're not running on the flat. You are on trails for the vast majority of it. You're talking about, is it 4,000 meters climbing? That's savage business. But yeah, and then we've Eco Trail 3.5 weeks away, I think.
We'll be 3 weeks on Saturday as we're recording this podcast at the start of September. So, 3.5 weeks away.
That's another savage one. Did you get to do Eco Trail last year, Sean?
No, this is my first ultra. So I'm going to selfishly ask you to talk a little bit more about Eco Trail because you did it last year, Mark, am I right?
I did. I went for the 80, and unfortunately, when you come in, they've a fella that, the sweeper, caught me at 72 because the knee blew coming back down off the Sugarloaf.
Oh.
There is a serious decline. They put in a new path. Now, it used to be just the old worn trail, but the councillor or Quilta, I don't know which one did it put in the path, and my God, I'd love to do it on a mountain bike or even a go-kart, but it's running down it tore the bejesus out of me. And that's just even brings you on to one strong recommendation. If you do get into trail running, even more than road running, you need your strength and conditioning. I would highly recommend it. Just that the stronger your chassis, the more stable you'll be out there. And Eco it's a savage event. They have some of the best volunteers that are out there on the day. A lot of the guys who would be kind of the supervisors, shall we call them? I don't know what, or the kind of the leaders. They're all experienced through IMRA races and so on. They would be involved in some of the other Quest. I don't know if you guys have raced with Quest yet. Again, savage. I think you'd agree with me there. There's a professionalism there with Quest. I've been with them for a while now. I've even gone over to Wales to do one of their races. Even that was my introduction to electric mountain bikes, because we travelled on the Friday, raced on the Saturday, had a beverage or two Sunday, and then myself and Mrs. Markey said we do the mountain bike trails on Monday. And I says, even though we had our mountain bikes with us, I says, I am booking us e-bikes. I don't care. We're booking them. And she was, no, we're cheating. I says, I don't care.
Okay.
And we absolutely loved them. So now we both own an electric mountain bike, and but see, like for me, if I head out like this Saturday, I think I'm going to pop out for about 2.5 hours. On Sunday, if she'd like to go up the mountains, if I was pushing a regular mountain bike, I would be crucified from the day before. But with the e-bike, it's still tough. It's not like a motorbike. You still have to pedal, and you still have to control the bike on the downhills. But yeah, like last night, we just said, feck it, threw the bikes on the bike rack, headed up to Ticknock after work. One quick spin, even though out running that morning, not a bother to us. It was good. But yeah, so Eco Trail, are you doing the 45 or the 80?
The 80.
Love it. Love it.
So we're going all the way. I may have been heavily influenced by Dara on this one now. I was talking to him during my challenge back in March, and he was telling me about the Eco Trail, and he sold me on it. I was like, was that a 45 or 80? I was like, you know what? Let's just go all in.
Go for it. But when you think back to it, when you did the 4x4 for 48, that's your 80K.
That's my 80K over 48 hours.
So you've done, like, when you think about it, they're like, they both have their separate challenges. Like, obviously for Eco, you have to, there's everything from your stomach to everything, because you're going non-stop for 80K. But then you, for doing the 4x4 or 4x4 for 48, fair dues to you had to battle going back out getting your 4 miles done and then having to go back out again every 4 hours. Like, that in itself, I'm hoping to do that now next January or February. It was supposed to be on the cards this year, but bloody COVID hit in February, and it blew the socks off me. But the worst part was we were booked to go to Paris for the rugby, and obviously we couldn't travel for that. But sure, roll on Italy. Hopefully get over to Rome next for the Six Nations.
So, Marky, I'm sorry to bring back bad memories. What do you mean by a sweeper in the race? Is there someone that's the back marker that just pulls you off it, or what does that mean?
Well, it was I stopped in Kilmacruddy. I can't even pronounce the name of the house. It's the private house on the
Kilruddery.
Your head now, right? Kilruddery, that's the one. So I sat down there in the picnic tables and I was kind of, do you know, when you just have to do that hard decision, am I going to do more damage pushing on for these? I was chatting to lads. One of the supervisors there is a lad from Quest, sound fella altogether. And I could see the guy coming back down off the hill. So they're pulling all the flags, you know, directional signs, everything from behind. But yeah, basically it will be if he catches you, you're kind of advised it might you might not make the cutoff. And but as hard as it was, I just had to say to myself, do you know what? No, I want to be back running in 3-4 weeks' time. If I push on for the 8, because you have to climb up the back of Bray Head after that. And then Bray in itself, like I said, I have no problem going up Bray. It's coming down. It is as steep as anything. Your quads will be screaming at you, you know. But then again, just think about it. You have a nice beer waiting for you from Wicklow Wolf at the finish line. So it can be worth it.
Looking back on it, Mark, is there anything on that Eco Trail? I know you said just going downhill, your legs were just crushed. Is there anything you wish you had done more in your preparation to that? That gone for, or just in a
day? Probably gone for liposuction. I'm what we call. I think we're not allowed to use. Ironman got rid of it. There used to be a category called Clydesdale, and basically, if you weigh over 100 kilo, and I would love to bring it back because for big lads like us, we're not all slim little chickens like you guys, but at the end of it, it's like I'm never going to be small. And look, that's the joys of it. And I still do my strength and conditioning, and I still love, I love lifting heavy. That's just me. But you are conscious of it. If I had a couple of kilo less, that's a couple of kilo literally you're not carrying for 80K. To be quite honest, I was very happy with my preparation. Maybe a few more double. There was no point saying it to you now, Sean, doing it. You're 3.5 weeks away. You'll be hitting taper in about a week. It depended again how you're feeling. But when you're going that big, no, absolutely you need strength and conditioning. 2, you need to be practicing what you're wearing for the day. And there's no point going off to one of the running shops and buying yourself a set of poles 2 days before it. If you haven't been using them, you don't use them. That's it. You've been wearing your hydration vest out on the course. You've been practicing your nutrition. Even that, like I think my little go-to is T-Brack. I just absolutely love T-Brack with a wedge of butter on it. And it's a nice little rush. But I'd say 45, 50K into it, I couldn't stomach food anymore. And I just relied on Tailwind, which is I'm not supported by them yet. Hopefully they're listening. But Tailwind is a fantastic, nutrition for out in the runs. It has a blend of the carbs and electrolytes and so on, and you can get one with a wee bit of caffeine in it. But it does. And then getting out the training, like there's obviously during the week you're still only going to be hitting your hour runs or your, I'm all for switching things up and switching around, between your tempos, your thresholds, your intervals, just to keep you interested. Otherwise, you're going to be bored out of your tree. A lot of those, you're really building that strength in the legs, which is going to stand to you. And then when you hit the weekends, try and get some double days in. So, you could be going out for the 40K on the Saturday, going out doing for another 20K on the Sunday or whichever way. And for my training, I loved it. I'm going to feel bad. I hope my ex-boss isn't listening to this now because he's a runner himself. But I was chatting to him. He wanted me to sit in on a meeting of a Friday. And I says, I'm actually off. I says, I'm heading down to Wexford. The in-laws have a mobile on a site down there. And I says, well, I'm down there. I'm going to do a wee bit of the Wicklow Way. And he was delighted to tell me he does the relay for the Wicklow Way.
Oh, yeah.
And it just turned out to be the exact same section I was doing. The difference was he only does A to B one way. And what I was doing, I was starting in B, shall we say, running to A. But before I got to the town, there's I think it's called the Mangan Pass or something. And I says, I'll throw it in for a bit of crack. into the town, turn around, refuel with water, filling up everything, and then head back. Because if I threw in the Mangan Pass, it brought me up to marathon distance. Because if you're going to do 40K, you might as well do 42.2, and you have another marathon under your belt. And I felt a bit of a dick kind of going, oh, yeah, that's kind of cute. You do it one way. I'm doing it twice, and another little bit thrown on. But yeah, no, as I said, but I got to see so many different, that's the problem. Sometimes with the trail running, you've got to drive to these various different places. But man, it is worth it, when you get out there.
It is one thing, Marky, maybe you might, I know you head off on your own a lot, but if you can find someone to come along with you, not only does it keep you motivated, but it gives you the bonus of, we can drop the cars here, drive to the start line, we've 2 cars to get us back. You also have someone with you in case anything happens, because you know yourself, in certain parts of the mountains and hills, you might not have reception, you might not have anything. So sometimes it can help to have someone with you. How do you convince someone to go run 42.2 kilometers in the mountains?
You would be surprised. I know everybody. I suppose there's only so many big races these days. We're all nearly probably going for the same ones, just like that. Like I'm only going to do the 30K eco this year. Again, build myself back up because I've a little challenge that I'm hoping to do next April down in Waterville. There's a Waterville Trail Run Festival. But yeah, no, we'll build up. But no, 100%. If anybody who's starting off, please don't go up there on your own. Now, I will just very, very quickly talk about some of the safety things that I would recommend for anybody to go out there. As you said, Eric, your phone might not work. If you trip, your phone could get smashed. Especially, we all have these fancy mobile phones that screen is gone in a second. It doesn't matter what cover you have on it. If you hit a massive rock or something. But there's a story that stands out to me. There's a lad from back in Limerick, and he was out on his bike, and he got a smack of a truck, ended up in hospital, didn't know his name, didn't know anything. But because of one little thing from a company called Road ID, now there's probably a mountain of companies that do them, but I'll just talk about Road ID because that's who make mine as well. But it's just basically a little strap. You can actually get them to make for your Garmins and stuff a steel plate that that will clip onto it. But basically on the plate you have your name. You could basically put what you want on it, but the main idea would be to have your name, any known allergies, blood type, and 2 contacts. So I think I have my now wife on it. She was my partner, and I have my father on it as well. But basically, that fella got to have his wife sit beside him in hospital while he didn't know his own name, all because he had that bracelet on him. So as soon as he got into the ambulance, they knew his blood type. They knew that they could give him anything because he'd no known allergies. You just put in NKA on your thing. And they were able to ring his wife, and she was able to sort the kids out and get into him and the Limerick General straight away. So that's Road ID. I think it might only cost like $10, $15 or euro to get hold of one of those things. I'd highly recommend it. But then even going back to the technology, what myself and my wife do, we use the safety trackers on the watches. So mine is set up that every single time that I do an outdoor event, if I go for a run, a cycle, whatever, as soon as I hit start, she gets a text message and an email with a link to my location.
Hold on a minute. Explain this. I've never heard of this one before.
It's Garmin, isn't it?
Built into Garmin Connect. And I'm sure if they're doing it, they're all doing it. So if you go you pop open Garmin Connect, open up the menu on the left-hand side. Now I'm Android, so that's the app I'd be familiar with. Scroll all the way down and you'll still see safety and tracking.
I can see live track, yeah?
Live track is what it is. So
my God.
Literally, so I think my wife used to insist on me doing it because I'd sneak off to Burger King on the way. And she'd be trying to catch me out. But no, recently she herself and 2 friends were doing a section of the Camino. And I said, oh, sure, I'll invite myself along for the last few days. And with the way flights were, I flew in of the Friday, but they weren't arriving into Santiago on the Saturday. And I says, you know what, I'm going to run out the Camino towards them. And I was able to watch her tracker. So even during the week, I'm over here in Ireland, and I knew exactly where she was in over in Spain.
Brilliant.
But I was able to basically time my run perfectly to meet them. They were doing 20K, and I says, if I can meet them at the halfway point, I get the 10K out to run towards them. And what I was going to run back, but I don't know if you would have seen on my Insta, I did get food poisoning the day before I left. So I did walk back. And literally, it was not a fun couple of days, but an amazing place to go to. I'd highly recommend Santiago, even if you're not doing the Camino. Beautiful, beautiful little town. Unreal. But yeah, that safety tracker, but some of the, depending on what watch you have, I know when I'm on a bike, if the watch believes it's had a sudden impact, it will send an emergency alert. So then myself, I think there's one of the buttons, the top button on the left, if I hold in for 3 seconds when I'm doing an event, it will kick off. So it actually went off accidentally when we were up doing the mountain rescue benefit race. And it was like a little reunion, meeting guys that we haven't seen because literally with COVID and we haven't been doing races and everything. And with two of the lads, I haven't seen them since we were down in Waterville for the running festival last April. And whatever way we were posing for photographs, I think my hand got caught and it caught the watch against my arm, set off the emergency beacon. Poor Claire over in Spain, her phone starts going, beep, beep, beep. What the hell is happening? What the hell, So I had to give her a quick ring to say, no, here, don't worry. Everything's A-okay. But yeah, just to
Mark,
have that.
Sorry, just on that, just the Garmin Connect, because you were talking about your watch before we hit the record button on this. With the Phoenix 6, do you need your phone with you for the
as far as I know,
needs to be with you for that GPS? Because I wrecked my phone doing that last year now. I still really had it with me. It was like it got sweat all on the phone. I ruined the thing. So it's just, you got to cover it up.
No, what you need to do is go out to IKEA and buy a big box of their Ziploc bags.
Yes.
And they are the best thing for it. Like, what was it, €3? And they just fold up around the phone to protect it. And to keep it dry. Because, no, absolutely. I've, I think it's my Camelback. I have the 2 pockets at the side, that come down near my hips. And I won't lie, I'd be a sweaty Betty. They get soaked. And so I have to cover up the phone. But I think for the vast majority, because basically your watch doesn't have a SIM card, it doesn't have, so it's but you could have it in your back, you could have it anywhere,
just as long as it's on you.
But yeah, and then it says, just even to go on from that, when you're talking about having the route and everything, then it says, I know I mentioned it earlier on, Garmin does have a facility where you can go in and plot your route. Some of them will even have, you could just tell it, I want to do a 10K, and it will suggest a 10K and a route and stuff like that. But to be honest, Garmin will mainly give you roads rather than actual trails. But if you go, I'm a premium member with Strava. So if I saw, you could actually go into one of my runs. If you were a premium as well, look at my runs. If we follow each other, and you can take my GPX, you just load it up into the Garmin. They send it to the watch. And as I said, for the newer watches, they all pretty much have it. It's literally like Google Maps on your watch. And you're just following around, and you'll see even if you go on the Eco Trail website, they have a link. Last year it was to the French trail. It's basically it's just a website that has all the trails on it, but they have the links. A lot of races are doing that now. They will give you the GPX to, so you could go out and do recce's of the trail. You could do whatever you want.
Unbelievable.
I am learning so much about this very expensive rock on my arm, and I never know if I can use any of it. It just shows you, once I do my runs, I'm like, oh, well, that's that done. But there is so much more, and it's man, because even cycling in, I'd ring, say, listen, I made it, because it's just me on the bike going in and out to work, and on back roads, that could happen to me and stuff. So, it's tweaked a lot. Jeez, Mark, I think you've set yourself up for another episode here.
Jeez,
podcast.
The dog is never going to be walked.
Garmin are going to be paying us now.
They are. No, I do. Do you know what? I think they all pretty much do whatever, the same sort of functionalities. All the big watches, and I think it's like, so I wear Hoka's and Solomon's on the trails. Somebody else would prefer Adidas Terrex. We all just have our preferences, but they can be amazing. Like even down to we were talking about training and coaching and everything. Your watch can become your coach. You program in your intervals, and literally you go out. You don't have to think or you don't have to be looking at your watch. You just get used to what the vibrations mean. That whatever way you set it up, if it vibrates and you set it up for speed, you're going too slow, too fast. If you set it up for heart rate, is your heart rate too high, too low? Even power is the new thing. I don't know. Have you guys tried to run with power on the trails or anywhere?
No.
What's that, Mark?
On a bike we have
the watts per kilo.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. So, how do you pronounce? Stride is that's the AAA kind of level. It's a foot pod that you throw on your shoe. There was one that they released there, I think within the last 12 months, maybe 18 months, that even takes into account the wind. That there's a little hole at the front of it and it's taking the wind into account. But basically what it's supposed to do is every time you're stepping, it is measuring the power that your impact on the ground is producing. So the idea would be, heart rate can be slow to react, depending.
Yeah.
Now, like my one, when I do intervals, I'm quite lucky. When I hit my recovery or my rest stage, my heart rate will just plummet back down again. Mm-hmm. Somebody else might be slower, or I could have been a little bit greedy and had 2 double espressos going out with my caffeine tab rather than just the one, if you know what I mean. That can fluctuate. I would never ever train with speed on the hills because you don't know what hill you're coming next to. The whole lot of it. I actually personally I prefer the heart rate training on trails, but power that's the new thing that people are trying to train with. So literally, your interval session will be all about hitting that. Your intensity session could be dependent on what your functional threshold power is. You're going to hit a band of it. The way your heart rate has the 5 zones, 7 zones. You have the exact same zones within power, and you set up your interval session in regards to that.
I'm confused.
Forced by weight, is it? Like, is it how many times you like you have to be independent of the person in their own body weight hitting that? And
when you set, as far as I know, I do have one because like that, I am a geek for technology when it comes to training, and it's just I actually tried it during the week again to try and run with power, and it can fluctuate so much. I just didn't have the patience for it, and I just says, no, here I'm going. And then as well, I'm only getting back from the food poisoning anyway, so I just says, I'm going to go back to the heart rate training, so I'm staying within my limits, shall we say. But it's when you set it up, you'll give it all the information. A lot of people try and use it. It's supposed to auto calibrate as well. So there's some people who will actually prefer to use that for your distance rather than the GPS on your watch. Because when you hit like where my regular trail route, I'm not going to tell people where it is because we're trying to keep it secret. or the farmer is going to go freaking mad with us. But you eventually end up running by the Liffey, but you've got trees above you. So the GPS goes a wee bit haywire. And like I'm tipping along and I'm going, hang on, it's telling me 8 minute kilometers. There's not a chance, I'm going much faster than that. But some people believe it's super reliable, even just that it's like the Garmin footpod, or even Swift brought out a footpod as well. It hasn't really caught on yet, especially when you look at the cost of the footpod. And considering you could head on up and when you hit the trails, if that footpod is going into puddles, for 10, 15, 20% of your run, I don't know how long it will last, that it's supposed to withstand the puddles and stuff. But we live in Ireland, it can get pretty bad up there. But
I can imagine, Mark, this is probably one of these things like the watch the heart rate. Athletes were using it first, and then the general public, it came to the masses. I imagine it's one of these things that it's someone's going to figure out how to use it. Some coach is going to train an Olympian, and they're going to say to use these pods, and then we're all going to be getting them en masse. But I don't know now. Running's supposed to be cheap. The most expensive part's supposed to be your runners. So
not anymore.
No, 100%. No, that's it. It can go mad, but I suppose it's, if you make it that wee bit of an investment, that's a start. Like that, your runners, and a half decent GPS watch. Like, I know there's a lot of people. I love, or I prefer to run naked, as in with no technology. But I be just kind of going, well, no, I prefer knowing at the end of the year how many kilometers I've run, because I want, like a car, I want to know what's on the clock. What's on the odometer. As I said there, I'm recovering from the food poisoning this week. I noticed when I went running on Tuesday, my average pace was nowhere what it should be. But I was happy that I kept within my heart rate zones, so I wasn't overstraining the body and stuff like that. So it has its place. But then roll on Saturday, all I'm going to do is press start and press stop, and I won't look at the watch in between, because I just instinctively know how far I'm gone, and I won't be worried about heart rate or whatever. I'll just go by feel. So in a way, it's kind of semi-naked, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it is good to have a reset every now and again of just learning what it feels like, rather than have the watch tell you, and what's this pace feel like. It's always good to reset like that.
Yeah, 100%. And then just while I'm thinking about it, going back to even with all these maps, or talking about when people go out. You don't need the fancy watches, print off a map. Or if you want to be serious old school, buy the OSI maps.
OSI maps, yeah.
Yeah. They're a little bit bulky, but as I say, if you have a photocopier and work, just photocopy out the section you're breathing, because like that, technology can't fail. But plan out where you're going, let people know where you're going. Like at the end, like as I was mentioning, the mountain rescue, the calls that they get, people up the mountains in a pair of Crocs or a pair of sandals, and and then as well, what I'd always, when I go out, I have a first aid kit at the bottom of the bag. I have my water, I have whatever food and stuff like that. Have a tenner tucked inside the phone, for an emergency ice cream, and or a pint, depending on where you're passing on the way back. And as I say, it's just those things. And then obviously let people know that you are back safe and sound. But if you can, do get out and enjoy the trails, because it's just, you get out there, you're like any long run, you're having the chats, you're having the crack. You're kind of, if the people well, you go into your comfortable silences as well, and it is the best all around running. And it's, even if your goal is a sub-3 marathon, sub-4 marathon, or even sub-5, anything at all, the strength you'll get from trail running is going to translate over to road running. So, so much more than road running will translate to trail running. So it can be just to keep you interested during the week. I think God bless anybody who's around the 400 meter track 20 times or something. That would just do my head in. But
100% agree. Marky, I'm conscious of the time we're after keeping the podcast, but just to wrap things up for you, I wanted to get more into your coaching and stuff, but just a quick question that we talked about your running and triathlon qualified coach. In my line of work, personal training, a week doesn't go by where I'm talking to someone and like, I need to work on my abs to get rid of my belly fat, or I need to do more bicep curls and tricep press downs to get rid of arm fat. I'm like, that doesn't work. And that always happens. But in your, I suppose, because it's a running podcast, is there any really common misconceptions or questions you always get asked with running and triathlon? You're like, this is something that I keep saying till cows come home, but it's not catching on, or just some basic thing where you think people definitely need to do a lot more of?
Yeah, there'd be a few things. 100% what you're saying, and it can be. People are buying men's health, men's fitness. You're talking about people that have the special genetics, whatever. Like I'm the complete opposite. As I said, I am a Clydesdale. When it comes to the running, and you're trying to explain it to somebody, like, look, we all have busy lives. If you miss a training session, don't try and catch up. There's times sometimes that, and that's why I think that one of the best coaches that you'll have out there is somebody who's listening to you throughout the week. They're not just going to lash out a 16-week program and say, there, off you go, we'll see you at the end. It has to be adaptive. It has to be able to take into account, this week I was working late. I'm on the road. There could be somebody who's a salesman and is doing 8 hours of driving, a day or something like that. He's going to have serious problems with his hip flexors and stuff like that. So, there's so many different things to come in. But yeah, don't try and catch up on work that you missed out on. Listen to your body, as Eric was saying there, that sometimes you do need to switch off the technology and get back to feeling how it actually is out there. Just if you are going with a coach, make sure he asks, what do you want out of this? There's specialist marathon coaches out there, there's specialist speed. Just because they could do that, they're happy out. But it's at the end of it, you're the one paying the bill. You make sure you explain everything to them. Especially then for the lady runners out there, they have other things to contend with. They're going to even try and factor in their down weeks for their monthly visitors, shall we say. What else could you say? And just keep the training as interesting enough that they're going to keep interesting and that they understand it does take time. Progress isn't linear. You're going to have your good weeks, your bad weeks. Mm-hmm. And then I think I'm trying to remember one of the trainers. He's a fantastic spokesperson as well, but he'll really advocate the 80-20 rule. And that's it. When you were doing your training, when you look back on your stats, be it if you write them in a book or if you do you've got the fancy watches or whatever, seriously, 80% of your training should be nice and relaxed. And that's where you get out in that run and you can hold that conversation the whole way around in those parts of it. The 20%, by all means, do intensity. But I see too many people doing intervals 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and then bang on the long run. And they're wondering why they're injured. That was. I think there's an adage when it comes to Ironman training, and it's if you think you're going too fast, you're going too fast. If you think you're going the right speed, you're probably going too fast. And if you think you're going too slow, you're probably still going too fast. That you just gotta hold yourself back. That there's plenty in the tank there, the whole lot of it. But especially when it comes and the same for yourself now, Sean. Will come with eco. Don't go herring up Bray Hill. There's that excitement when you start going down Bray Promenade, and then you start doing that climb up the Bray Hill. As it says, you pace yourself. There's going to be plenty of people about you, but by God, enjoy that. The scenery on that run, Powers Court and everything, the Sugarloaf, it is just stunning, and down to Roundwood, around by the reservoir, Sneaky Point coming back out of Roundwood. I didn't say that.
All I know is just a pint on top of it now.
Yeah, your man Rene Borg, one of the he's a fantastic coach from Denmark, but he's been here in Ireland for a long time. He'd be involved with eco as well, yeah. But he nearly caught me having that pint coming back out, but luckily he didn't see it. But
all this sponsorship talk we're talking about earlier, all these different companies and all the rest, all I heard is Pint and Wicklow Wolf. That's all I'm interested now on this one.
We won't mention it's probably the non-alcoholic one, but come here to me, it's all good, as I say.
All good. 100%. Mark, thank you very much for being on the podcast. We definitely love to have you back on in the near future, talk more about your coaching and stuff like that. But especially with the trails, talking about last week and the trail runs we have coming up, the eco runs, and Eric in Scotland last week getting a taste of the trail runs. Ton of info. I'm going to look up foot pods and everything else. Eric, anything else to add?
No, I'm actually still trying to figure out how I can get myself tracked here on this. This is brilliant, Marky. You're coming back on here again.
We'll do. Sure, that's it.
We'll be our technology episode.
Yeah.
No, it is savage. Like when once you get used to it, it is absolutely brilliant out there, and you do get to explore those new trails. And like, as you were saying, you went to Scotland, and I'll just leave you with this. There's so many organizations, that's my dream, to go to Scotland to Scotland, Austria, Italy, and that for a trail running holiday just for the week, and kind of like Max Adventure. There's another plug. You just get to the first part. They have your accommodation sorted each night, and they say walk. I ain't walking. We're going to run from as much as we can, because and I'll just throw it in when talking about coaching and training and even introducing to trails, lads. There's always going to be a hill that we all walk. Sometimes, the pros are going to barrel up it, but don't be put off the fact that you're going, look, I might not do it, because it's the more you get out, the stronger you'll get, and you'll find those hills that you walked at the start of the summer, you're going to be running at the end of the summer. But there's still always a hill that we still got to walk. Like, if you can't see over that hill, just slow it down and get yourself safely over it.
Unbelievable. Mark, thank you very much for this week's episode of the podcast. Definitely not, and that the show notes now are going to be insane. So many links and stuff to throw into it. God, listen back to this whole thing for so many different reasons. Mark, thank you very much for being on this week's episode of the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Everyone else that's listening to this week's episode of the podcast. That's it from Mark, myself, and Eric. Take care.
Bye.